Hey there, got a great video for you guys today. This one's all about selling to chefs and some of the trends in the restaurant industry. And you know, this year on my farm, I'm selling 100% to restaurants. And I often tell you guys tips and tricks and share my experiences so that I can help you guys if you're looking to sell to restaurants or maybe expand your operation into selling to more restaurants and those sorts of things. And generally it's me talking about the farmer side of it and how I interact with chefs and what I do to make sure I'm getting them what they need. But today I have a guest, and that's my friend Bobby. Bobby is a consulting chef, so he has a wide variety of experience working as a chef in different parts of the country and with different kinds of food. And now he actually consults for restaurants and helps them develop their menus and all sorts of cool stuff. So he's got a really wide range of things he knows about and is involved with in terms of the restaurant industry, and it should be really cool to not just hear from the farmer side of it but also from the chef restaurant side of it. Before we get to that conversation, I want to take a minute to talk about today's sponsor, which is Growing for Market magazine. Growing for Market has been in existence for 30 years, educating growers and farmers all across the country and in the world. Their information is super in-depth and all of the content is written by people that are very knowledgeable. They have an online archive of 1,600 articles that you can check out. They offer an online version of their magazine and also a print version. And there's a coupon code for 25% off called SHOVEL. I'll leave links down below for everything. I really hope that you guys check out Growing for Market. I know I really enjoy looking at their content and seeing what other farmers are up to. So go check that out. Now, let's get on to the conversation with Bobby. Bobby, thanks so much for coming by today. I know we've been hanging out a little bit more lately, and you're trying to learn more about growing food, and I'm trying to learn more about cooking and the restaurant world. So before we get into some details about restaurants and the trends there and things like that, I want you to introduce yourself a little bit and talk about your background. So what do you do, Bobby? You're a consulting chef?
Yeah, so
what's that all about?
I'm the consulting chef at Y Hill and a few other places. Y Hill is a brewery and restaurant here in Raleigh. But it's cool. I basically write menus and I cost them out, and I just try to make things that are fun, creative, not overwhelming for the customer, but interesting. So a lot of places are, restaurants with a traditional executive chef where it's more just their day-to-day creative vision. And I just focus more on building systems and somewhat less frequent menu changes, but some places want that. They kind of have a need for that consistency that having a consulting chef brings. And a lot of people who open restaurants, they're not like traditionally restaurant people, right? So they may, while I'm not the one running the day-to-day, I kind of act as a liaison between maybe a less experienced chef and the owners who just have a very clear vision for what they want in a concept.
Very cool. So to get into a role like that, I'm assuming that you have to have a lot of experience beforehand. So talk about a little bit about your background in terms of like jobs you've had and things like that.
Yeah, so I started as a line cook in New York, and I worked for some great chefs up there. Moved down to Raleigh to open up a Royale in downtown. It's no longer open. It closed during COVID, but I was the chef de cuisine there for a year and a half. And after that, I kind of just did some cool like gig work, just different jobs. Helped a lot of people out, and I found myself in more of a helping role in like a gig basis than just settling down in one place. I kind of have other career goals besides just being a chef, so it kind of worked for me like that, and I kind of found myself being good at writing menus and getting paid for it. So
okay, and yeah. one of the most positive people I've ever met too, Bobby. So what about, you're also a columnist too? Can you talk on that a little bit?
Yeah. So I write a column called Like a Chef for Raleigh Magazine. I actually majored in writing in college, and I started cooking because I wanted to be a food writer with a little bit of authority. So I break down simple culinary concepts every month, and it's probably what I'm the most proud about of everything I do right now. I love it.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about the trends today in restaurants, and how are you feeling about the sort of farm restaurant connection? How does that looking, and how's that changed over the last like 5 years or so?
Yeah, I think the story started like 10 years ago when farm to table was really like all the rage, and it was just really popular. And but I think unfortunately that was more of a buzzword than just a deep-rooted connection. I don't know if connection is the right word, but it should be more of an active philosophy than just something that people cashed in on for a period of time. And I think nowadays everybody kind of assumes that if it's a good restaurant, it is farm to table. I mean, I think while that's true a lot of times, I think there's a lot to be said for the consistency of these, US Foods and Cisco and, even if the quality is not there, it's a lot easier to plan just based on the ease of these ordering systems that they've developed.
Right, and my experience so far is, I work with a lot of chefs, and they're not buying a lot of local food. And some of the restaurants are super awesome restaurants and really talented chefs.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of that is the consistency part, which I've talked to the viewers plenty of times about. Is that, like, if you're looking to, have a really strong account, is that probably one of the biggest things, is just make sure you have consistent product that you can deliver on?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely consistency. And you and I were talking earlier, and if you're out of something, or if you anticipate being out of something, being ahead of it, communicating directly, and maybe that means communicating or attempting to communicate like 10 times, because we are pretty inconsistent communicators ourselves as chefs at times.
Well, if people haven't been in the back of a commercial kitchen, it's chaos a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I mean, your line cook shows up drunk, your dishwasher misses his bus, and if your phone buzzes, you just want to throw it at the wall. You don't want to respond to your farmer. So
okay, so follow up with chefs, but don't be annoying about it.
yeah, or don't take it personally, especially, which I think you do a great job of.
Thanks. Yeah, I've learned that over time. If they don't respond for a few days, just send them a reminder, and they'll be good. So what are some other trends in terms of what are people looking for now, or are people looking for certain kinds of vegetables? Are people leaning more towards getting local meat, local eggs, local dairy, local mushrooms? What are some things that you've seen that has been interesting to restaurants?
I've seen a couple local mushroom places do really well. Fox Farm and Forage. There's Carolina Mushroom Farm, and people use them because they're consistent, right? They have basically it's more of a lab than a farm, and they can really control their output. But I think that's something that farmers, people who grow lettuce like you, if they want to be successful, be consistent and show up with the product, taste, let the chefs taste it. Coming out here was pretty eye-opening for me, and being able to taste the stuff right out of the ground. You talk a lot about what makes your product special, right? You grow lettuce. It's not hydroponic. You talk about why the bio-life in the soil makes it so much better, and then you actually hand me a piece of it and I taste it and I'm like, wow, this is better. So really sell what makes your product your product. You also do a really great job washing and drying and thereby extending the shelf life of your product. So it's just a heartier product, and you're going to waste less of it, and that's all stuff that's appealing to chefs. You can put yourself in our shoes pretty easily and think, what's good about this, and why would somebody want it, and maybe pay a little bit extra for it.
Right. I think, and I'm not just telling you to say all these things. You've learned you've learned this by hanging around and learning about how food's grown and taking interest in this. So when you have chefs that order off a truck every week, right, and they're just I need 10 pounds of lettuce, and they put the order and they don't want to think about it. I think there's some rhythm to it, and maybe some laziness, or some just people stuck in their ways. I don't want to have to deal with another vendor. I don't want to worry about this guy not showing up.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to why it's so hard to contact us in the first place. It's if US Foods is here's your order guide, just click the stuff that you want right now, and you can do it twice a week. It's just so much easier to plan around that, and just sometimes the idea of taking on an extra responsibility and just signing yourself up for something that's slightly more complicated can be intimidating.
Right.
But if you say, look, this is what I grow, this is how much I can provide, it lasts a long time, and I'll deliver it this day every single week, I think it's not, if you catch the chef at the right time, I think people, chefs would be happy to work with a good product.
Cool. And I think I say this a lot, but it's all about the relationships. You have to find chefs that want to be interested in this. And then if you can get them out to the farm, that's awesome. And they can make that direct connection with the farmer and the food. And also there's a lot of restaurants out there. So if you're hitting a brick wall with one chef that is not interested, pivot and try to work with someone else.
So many chefs out there, and they can surprise you. And I think, now that I'm thinking about it, a good way to gauge a chef's interest would probably be to show up with the product and then invite them out. Talk about what makes your product special. They might not have time, but if they're immediately dismissive of that, they probably don't care that much about the philosophy behind buying from you anyway. So I think that it's great to cast a wide net, meet all sorts of people. Chefs can be jerks, but you don't have to deal with the mean ones. So
right, and I think it's also important to just network. Like,
Yeah.
get your product into some people's hands, try to get 1 or 2 accounts, and be consistent with them and really execute, and then hopefully your network will expand.
Yeah, and we care. You know, chefs care about the food systems, and you know, even though our actions don't always support it when we order from U.S. foods all the time and stuff like that, that doesn't mean that we don't want to see this succeed. You know, there are times, Josh, when I can't order from you, but that doesn't mean I won't text 5 people and try to get you more accounts, because I believe in what you're doing, and I think there's a lot more people like me willing to support the little guy.
Well, appreciate that a lot, Bobby. So let's switch gears for a second. Let's talk a little bit about COVID and how has that affected the restaurant industry over the last year?
It's been detrimental. You know, you've seen a lot of people lose their restaurants, lose their dreams, and it's been pretty depressing. We've obviously seen a lot of pivoting, a lot of outdoor seating, which I think is here to stay, which is great. A lot of takeout stuff, which totally changes the way that you cook, really, because you're not gonna make something that's, you know, you got to eat it within 2 minutes or it's dead. You know, you see a lot of sandwiches, just heartier, kind of more easily packaged foods.
Okay, and then what about in terms of like service? Has there been a change of like, obviously like with social distancing and stuff, how has that affected the way the restaurants are set up?
Yeah, so a lot of places have the QR codes on tables. You see less physical menus, which I think changes the way people order a little bit. It makes specials sell a lot better because the server will verbalize things to you, and it's like, oh, that beats scrolling through this for 10 minutes, I'll just take that.
What about outdoor seating? Does that affect the way people are eating in restaurants?
I think so. I know when I'm outside, I'm more likely to eat like, at least get like a salad on the side than fries.
Okay, that's good for me then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so with COVID now, I know as people are starting to think about the summer and think with, you know, vaccines and opening up, how is that affecting the restaurants moving forwards, do you think?
Well, I think now that we're anticipating a lot more volume and kind of a, you know, the pendulum swing back the other direction, and I think it's going to pass where we were at last summer. I think restaurants are going to be slammed once they're open back up because people are literally and figuratively starved for it.
Okay, and is it kind of like a reset in a lot of ways? I mean, people have pivoted their businesses. Are they kind of like reinventing themselves again and getting kind of a fresh start?
Yeah, I see a lot of people kind of just, you know, why not, right? They've taken almost a year off, or a lot of people have. It's a great time to kind of reassess the way you've been doing things. Okay. And kind of start fresh.
And is that a good opportunity, you think, for farmers to get in there and work with chefs?
Absolutely. I think it's the best time I can think of for it.
Okay.
Because right now they're anticipating scaling up. They're thinking, what's going to make me different? What's going to give my restaurant the edge as all this stuff opens back up?
Cool. Well, I know you gave some great tips on people looking to sell to restaurants. Anything else that, you know, someone working in multiple different types of restaurants and working with farmers, are there any other things you could recommend or, you know, give advice to farmers looking to sell to chefs and work on those relationships?
Yeah, I think just be genuine, know your product, know what makes it different, do a little market research on what you think the chefs are actually paying. And you can that can be as simple as asking the closest chef friend that you have, like, hey, honestly, what do you pay for this? You know, you don't have to, like, you know, hunt down these companies and get price lists. You can just ask. But, you know, sometimes paying more is worth it, and we realize that, or at least the good chefs do.
I think with certain products, especially when, like, we talk a lot about lettuce, and, you know, with products like I do, it's cut, wash, ready to go. There's zero waste. It's a good shelf life versus something off a truck. Maybe half it's dead by the time you need to serve it. Maybe you're getting hydroponic lettuce. You're cutting out roots and you're paying for all that, and there's labor involved. I think having those conversations is important to, like, really tell chefs, like, why your stuff is worth what it's worth.
Yeah, and I think what really sells it is the taste. You know, you give it to them and you give them a sample and have them taste it.
All right, get them out to your farm, right?
Get them out to your farm.
All right. Well, Bobby's out at the farm today, and really appreciate everything, and hopefully we'll do some more stuff with you in the future.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Bobby. He's just an awesome person, and he's been hanging around a little bit more often because he wants to learn more about growing food, which has been great. And he's also starting a small garden at his house, and I'm trying to help him get started with that too. But for me, it's been great also to chat with Bobby and learn more about cooking and food and the restaurant scene and all that kind of stuff. And I met Bobby a few years ago working with one of the restaurants here in Raleigh, and we've kept in touch. And this is actually not the first time Bobby's been on the channel, if you remember this. Hey, so I'm out here filming about crop planting, and my boy Bobby came by, one of the chefs that I work with, and you want to introduce yourself, Bobby?
Yeah,
Where you work, what
I'm
you do?
Bobby. I'm the consulting executive chef for Y Hill Kitchen and Brewing.
Well, I love looking at old footage, but I also love and cherish the relationships that I have with my customers and the people I work with. And for me, it's the chefs, people like Bobby. building those relationships is super important, and it's just a reminder that you really want to make sure you're building those relationships and it's a mutual situation where you're helping each other out, and that way they'll be coming back to you and you can build that for years to come, and you'll have places to sell your produce. And as Bobby said, this is a great time with coming out of COVID, hopefully, where a lot of these restaurants are going to be in reboot mode. It's a great chance for you to get in there and sell people your produce. So lots of cool takeaways here, and I hope to do some more detailed content with Bobby in the future. We'll see how that works out. I think there's a lot of sort of mystery in that relationship between the farmer and the restaurant, and I think we can work on trying to get some of that content out to you guys. Otherwise, big thanks to Bobby, and big thanks to Growing for Market for sponsoring this video. Again, links down below. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.